Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Market Close Report for Wednesday, the 21st of January. Well, the Aussie market has continued to decline, only slightly though, with the ASX 200 falling now for a third consecutive day, down 33 points or about 0.4% to 8,782 points. So we've got to keep in mind it does follow a really strong week for our market. In fact, we went on a 5-day winning streak last week. We rose about 2.1%, hit a 2.5-month high just on Friday, and we also got to within about 2.2% of a record high, which we haven't actually been at since October last year. Also could have been quite a bit worse because we had the US markets coming back online after a long weekend. They will close on Monday for the Martin Luther King Jr. public holiday, and they played a bit of catch up with the rest of the world. Didn't do so well either because it was the first chance for American markets to react to the US-Europe tensions, which have been basically escalating. In fact, at the weekend, President Trump did threaten tariffs on 8 European countries, which included Denmark, also France and Germany as well, including 200% tariffs on French wine and champagne. The French president also coming back with ramping up the rhetoric against the US in a speech that came through last night as well. So this is all largely relating to the Greenland situation, which is very much keeping markets on edge. We also had bonds falling back as far as the bond market's concerned, and the US dollar also weakened as well. So markets have been a little on edge and tenterhooks at the moment, and that's probably going to continue to be the case with a bit of additional volatility hitting markets. Now, as far as what we saw across the sectors today, I mean, there were just 3 sectors that improved. The utilities, which is our smallest sector, was up about 1%, and then it was the resource sector combined which did well. So the materials up 2.5%, energy stocks up in the order of 0.9%. So that very much helped, but we did see declines everywhere else. And the fact that the financials were down 1.5%, all the big banks included there, was a pretty big weight. We also had consumer discretionary, those retail stocks down 2.1%, and declines that were significant elsewhere. It included tech as well, which was down 2.5%. So for the most part, there was a risk-off kind of attitude to markets today. Now, as far as the winners are concerned, look, a lot of these, of course, very much in that mining and energy space. Paladin Energy up a good 13.1%. Now, many of these winners were companies that came out with quarterly updates as well. So this not only was helped by these quarterlies, which were well received, but then also we had stronger commodity prices from gold, which hit a record high, silver, which hit a record high, and even iron ore, which dropped back a bit. Those producers did reasonably well under the circumstances, bouncing back from yesterday's fall. So Paladin up 13% today, touched a 52-week high as well. In its quarterly update, it said that it had a lift in production, sales, and realized prices, which is what it earns for what it sells, essentially. It also had a dip in costs, which was well received and was pretty optimistic about the year. Emerald Resources, a gold miner, up about 13% as well. That also came out with a quarterly, as did Rio Tinto, the iron ore producer, was up 2.5%. Now, it did say that iron ore shipments hit a record high in the December quarter, still down slightly over the year, but iron ore miners have done okay, partly because iron ore prices have, for the most part, been a bit more resilient than some had previously thought. Also, copper output up about 11% in 2025. So it still makes more than half of its revenue just from iron ore, but copper's becoming a bit more important. And I should mention Australian Strategic Materials. Now, this is a much, much smaller company, but it still rose about 119% today. Now, this is because a US-based group called Energy Fuels agreed to acquire the company for about $300 million US dollars. That's about 450 million Aussie dollars, a big 120% premium to what the shares were doing just yesterday. So this US group, Energy Fuels, said it intends to create the largest fully integrated producer outside of China of rare earths and other key minerals. So that certainly was quite well received by the market. As far as losers go, Telix Pharmaceuticals down about 7.7% today, on the receiving end of a couple of downgrades as far as the share price targets go for the next 12 months. But last night it did provide an update to the market, say that for the most part it met its upgraded guidance goals for the year. Also remember that yesterday it rose after the Chinese regulator accepted a drug application from the company. DroneShield down almost 9% today, but look, it still is up 40% this month, and it was the best improver just last year as well. ARB down 4.1%. This is the four-wheel drive accessories retailer. Now, it hasn't done well in recent days. Yesterday, it also fell after warning of a slump in half-year profits, which are blamed partly on a weaker Aussie dollars against the Thai baht. And it's in Thailand that it manufactures a lot of its goods. And Commonwealth Bank down about 2.2%. That was a pretty decent weight, and it means that BHP is now getting pretty close to taking it over as the largest stock on our share market. Now, looking ahead from here, tonight there will be a few things on the market's radar. We've got a bunch of economic data out of the United States, in fact, on construction, on housing, on and also we've got Johnson & Johnson handing down a quarterly update. We also have Donald Trump expected to meet global business leaders in Davos at the World Economic Forum in coming days. So comments out of that is going to be quite important to the market. And also looking forward to tomorrow, we've got an update on jobs growth at 11:30 a.m. Sydney time. Now, the expectation is that we could get between 30 and 40,000 jobs added over the course of December. Keep in mind that November was a particularly weak, surprisingly weak month. So it is going to be important. Could have markets talking about interest rate movements in coming months as well. And we also have a bunch of companies out with quarterly updates here in Australia too. So we're at that point now ahead of our reporting season where we get a lot of quarterly updates. So Regis Resources, Sandfire, Santos, South32, Fortescue Metals included. Now looking forward, looking at currencies rather, we've got the Aussie dollar sitting at about 67.3 US. Did strengthen against most other currencies, did weaken a touch against the Japanese yen. Have a great evening everyone, and we'll catch you tomorrow.